Hello and welcome to our first webinar on professional practice. In this session we'll look at reflecting on your own practice. You will have looked at reflecting on your own practice within the workshop. We're going to look at this in a little bit more detail now. Let's begin this session with talking about what self-evaluation is. A self-evaluation is one's own opinion of their performance within the workplace or how well they've dealt with a designated task or activity. It is a thoughtful and considered opinion involving rating oneself in terms of goals, competencies and overall performance. Have you had to complete a self-evaluation before? Often a self-evaluation is completed prior to you attending your quarterly or annual performance appraisal. When you self-evaluate, you become an active participant in your own evaluation. Your involvement enables you to honestly assess your strengths and also the areas that you may need to improve on. Then you can participate more constructively in the appraisal meeting with your supervisor. We're now going to talk about the models of reflection. There are many different models of reflection. Usually it takes an incident to prompt us to reflect. As they say, we learn from our mistakes. However, sometimes positive experiences can also provoke us to reflect. For example, if you're managing a client with a challenging behaviour and you find a new strategy that is effective at calming the client down, then you may reflect on this, as this will be a strategy you'd want to try again when a client is showing that same behaviour. I'm going to look at an example of a model of reflection by Atkins and Murphy. First of all, there's an action or new experience that gives us awareness of uncomfortable feelings and thoughts. For the start of reflection, you should describe the situation, including your thoughts and feelings. Then you should analyse these feelings. Once that's done, evaluate the relevance of any knowledge that you've learnt from this situation and identify, did any learning occur in this situation? We're now going to look at how we can self-evaluate. Conducting a self-evaluation begins with the individual asking themselves a series of questions about their own work performance. For example, you may ask yourself, what could I have done better this year? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What can I do to improve upon my weaknesses? Have I made progress compared with my last evaluation? And where can I take a personal initiative and become a stronger employee who contributes to the organisation more next year? Let's now look at a sample self-evaluation. As we look at this, think about what you would write in each of the following boxes if you were completing a self-evaluation today, either based on your current job or a previous job that you've had. The first question is, what are my strengths? So you may write things such as you communicate well with others or that you're a positive thinker. Then you need to list what your weaknesses are. Some examples include that you lack confidence or you're always stuck in your comfort zone and you don't want to step outside of that, or that you lose your temper easily. You then need to gather feedback. It can be positive or negative feedback from other staff, peers or even clients. Some examples of feedback may be that you're not assertive enough or that you lack initiative and too much planning gets done but no actions taken. After you've looked at your strengths, weaknesses and you've received feedback, you need to list focused area priorities, such as you would like to work on developing more self-confidence and courage. You'd like to learn to be more assertive, or you'd like to be able to control your temper and not get worked up so easily. When you're asking yourself these hard questions, it's important to be honest and realistic, but at the same time, don't be too hard on yourself and recognise your achievements and try to stay positive. Whilst the term self-evaluation may infer that a person is performing the activity on their own, in reality, the process really needs to involve the input of your supervisor and peers in order to be of real value and get satisfactory feedback. When completing your self-evaluation, you may want to consider the following tips Writing technique. You might want to write in a way that's natural to you and it sounds as if you're talking. You want to get feedback from co-workers and you want to be objective. Instead of evaluating yourself based on how you wish you'd performed, ask yourself some specific questions that then you can answer. What difference did my efforts make? What did I do to contribute to my organisation's goals and success? And did my efforts further the organisation's mission? By being objective, you'll get answers to specific questions and your evaluation will be a lot more specific. We're now going to look at some competing values, beliefs, and attitudes that people face. Every day we are faced with situations which will test our personal values, our attitudes, and our belief systems. We'll often be left in these situations wondering what action should we take or what's the right thing to do. It's important that in an organisation or a work situation that any action taken reflects the organisation's policies and procedures and that's always handled professionally and also ethically. When working with clients, often clients can be very diverse. A client's family values and beliefs can vary significantly from one family member to another. So it's important that we respect these. Let's take a moment now to look at the difference between values and attitudes. Just quickly, when you hear the term value, what do you think of? Values tend to be entrenched in the makeup of an individual and are subject to educational influences and persuasion, largely because they are socially based and they're acquired through learning. Our values tend to be lifelong and are part of who we are. If that's what values are, have a quick think of what you think attitudes would be or the definition of attitudes. Attitudes involve more situations. These are more readily changed than values. Attitudes are perceptions and feelings about oneself, others, and about society as a whole. Regardless of our own personal values, beliefs, attitudes, and cultures, our views should not be reflected when dealing with families of new clients. For example, it would be unethical for a registered nurse who is practicing to be a vegetarian to impose their practices on the residents that live in the aged care facility where they're employed. Aged care staff must be aware of their own personal biases and consider these when reflecting upon their practices. Organisations should be committed to creating a work environment that values the diversity of all people, staff, residents, visitors and family members, such as they should sustain awareness of diversity. Management should provide information on workplace diversity to all staff and clients. This can be done through either formal training or posters or flyers. Organisations should also demonstrate commitment to diversity. They can do this by treating others with respect, courtesy and consideration, by demonstrating workplace diversity in leadership, by supporting flexible working arrangements, and during the recruitment process, this should be a fair and selection-based decision based on merit and not based on somebody's background or values or beliefs. Workplace diversity is about acknowledging differences and adapting work practices to create an inclusive environment in which diverse skills, perspectives and backgrounds are all valued. It is about understanding the individual differences in the staff and the clients that we work with. Let's now have a quick look at some of the features of diversity. These can include things such as age, ethnicity, gender, disability, language, religious belief, life stages. You'll find that you may be working with clients that could be in their 40s. And then on another day, you could be working with clients that are in their 90s. So it's important to consider their life stage. Another feature of diversity is education, career responsibilities, sexual orientation, personality, and marital status. We're now going to talk about feedback. When working with others, it's important to receive and also to give feedback. Feedback is given only for the purpose of helping the staff member to see the result of his or her actions so that he or she may choose whether or whether not to change the actions to get a different result next time. Objective feedback is an essential component in the pursuit of optimal performance. It is important that your work performance is monitored and that you receive feedback which is constructive and encourages you to strive for improvement. Feedback can be positive. Positive feedback indicates that tasks were carried out well. It acknowledges personal effort and good cooperation among team members. It also encourages members to continue to strive for excellence. Feedback can also be negative. Negative feedback informs team members that tasks were not completed so well. It analyses the reasons for the problems encountered and proposes ideas for improvement. The final form of feedback is constructive. Constructive feedback encourages and acknowledges good job performance. It also suggests areas for improvement and strategies for achieving this improvement. It's important to get input and feedback to ensure that you are working to your ultimate peak. So try some of the following strategies. You can ask your co-workers and your clients. You can look for patterns in the ways that you do tasks and what has positive and then what has negative outcomes. You can make the right choices and keep making those right choices. You should make necessary changes when things aren't working well. And you should eliminate self-destructive actions. Feedback can either be formal or informal. Formal performance appraisals generally occur on a regular basis within an organisation. The first appraisal usually takes place approximately 3 months after an employee starts a job, and then either every 6 or 12 months thereafter. These appraisals allow for a formal method of feedback, which can lead to modifications of a job description, further training, and re-evaluation of a person's performance. Informal feedback from supervisors and colleagues can include things such as comments on the job, like, "Oh, well done today," or just a quick conversation about suggestions on how you could complete a task next time. Feedback from clients giving positive comments and praise for good customer service is always seen as a positive thing. There will be routine organisational methods for monitoring their services and receiving feedback from clients and other staff. These can include things such as customer complaint or satisfactory forms or surveys that are completed by clients on a regular basis. Feedback is essential for staff to know how they're progressing, and also evaluation is crucial to the workers' confidence too. A successful conclusion to your annual performance review or appraisal should help you and your supervisor or manager to understand what you need to do, what's left to do, what is the quality of your team's objectives, how well aligned are the people within the team, how is the team progressing to achieving their goals or their objectives, where do you need to focus on a different outcome, and what training or education could you benefit from? It can be hard to receive feedback if it's a negative feedback on your work performance. So when your manager is giving you negative feedback, you may need to try the following. Really listen to what they have to say. Often people receiving negative feedback are so concerned with what their response should be that it prevents them from hearing and processing what's been said. Don't just brush off what your manager said with a quick, "Oh, okay," because the manager may perceive this as you just wanting to get out of the office and to terminate the conversation. A more appropriate response would be something like, "Oh, I want to take some time to think about this, but I appreciate what you're telling me." Try not to respond defensively. Your manager isn't necessarily trying to haul you over the coals, as they say, and trying to defend yourself might do this unnecessarily. It's more likely they are looking out for signs that you're hearing what they've said and you're taking into account and considering their feedback and some actions you may take in future to fix the issues that they've raised with you. If you generally disagree with the feedback you're receiving, and you're sure it's not just your ego getting in the way, as it can for all of us at times, it's okay to say that. However, the approach you use and the tone of voice that you use is very important. You may wish to say something like, "Oh, I hadn't realised I was coming across that way. So I'm glad that you've raised this with me and you've let me know." Be glad your manager is giving you feedback. Plenty of people don't bother doing this, and they just leave you to wonder why you can't move within the aged care facility or get that promotion that you want. The managers who take the time to give you honest feedbacks are the ones that you want to work for, because these are the ones that are going to allow yourself to improve and hopefully get yourself into the position that you wish to be. I'd like to thank you for your time and your participation in this webinar. Continue now by watching this video on performance appraisals gone bad. I hope that none of you have ever had to experience a performance appraisal like this.